I'm not saying that if a woman doesn't want to get married and she wants to go to college and get a high paying job, that she can't do that. But a lot of these women are getting propped up by the government. And if they weren't getting propped up by the government, and they weren't going to college to get a high paying job, and instead they're going to have to be a barista at Starbucks, which they end up being anyway, or some other type of thing like that.
Wait. Hold on a second. What do we have here, ladies and gents? Contradiction yet again? Let me get this straight. So now you're saying that it's okay if a woman wants to get an education. But earlier you were negatively implying how a woman's education is the causation of lowering fertility rates. If you're so concerned about the population, why are you supportive of women going into careers? Also, you paint a black and white view of reality again. I don't see why women can't have a career and then settle down and have a family. What about teachers who are women and have families? I mean, are you going to tell me that a woman has to be either a career teacher or she has to raise a family? It's not marriage or career. It can be both. We live in the modern era, for sake. And how the hell does the government have to do with a woman wanting to go to college? This doesn't make any sense, and I don't even know if I'm going to get through this video. My mind is turning into porridge from all this nonsense. Tomorrow, again, ladies and gents, it is I, the Crimson Crusader, your #1 source that dares to criticize MGTOW content. Welcome back to the Comment Wars, Part 3. Now, in the Comment Wars series, we've been going through so much stuff. In our previous parts, we respond to many of the MGTOW YouTubers' square pegs, arguments and misconceptions while fending off an army of his strawmans. Now, all joking aside though, we need to stay on target this episode. If you haven't seen the previous parts, go watch those first before continuing on this video. I will leave links to those in the description. You guys can go check those out there. Now, in Part 3, we are going to be analyzing Square's points and his perspectives, ideas, etc. You get the gist of what's going on here. So far, not everything Square has said is all bad. I like how he supports capitalism and acknowledges that the differences between men and women, cognitively, biologically, etc., and we all get that here. We're on the same page. However, some of the many points he brings up are very questionable. And once again, in this video, my intention is not to attack him personally or intentionally strawman him. It's just my analysis of his arguments. And again, I will be responding to clips and paraphrasing Square's arguments to keep this, video fluent and moving, With that being said, Square can sometimes come off very confusing, especially when he's generalizing everything all the time, which makes it a problem to follow his point. While watching this video, I challenge MGTOWs and anti-MGTOWs to comment on one positive thing you like about the opposing side, preferably an argument or a creative point they brought up. At the end of this video, I'll give you my final thoughts on the things Square brings up. Hopefully this video will be able to, wrap up all the Comment Wars series, so I don't have to make a part 4. Anyways, let's see what else Square has to say. Okay, continuing my responses to your points from, previous parts, your next point is where you say that the #1 reason women divorce men is out of dissatisfaction, thinking they need to move on, not because of cheating, loss of job, or abuse. You state that 70% of divorces are initiated by women, and that most divorces are no-fault divorces. Therefore, you say that we can assume that most women will divorce men out for no fault. Now, do you also have some sort of source you can refer to, you can refer me to where you're getting all these numbers and statistics from? And how accurate is this source? Do you even know what the numbers are, like the specifics? From my perspective, it seems like you think women divorce out of boredom. If it's dissatisfaction is the #1 reason for divorce, what's the percentage of all the other reasons? Is it 50%, 40%, or even 30% of women who cite this as a reason for divorce out of all the other reasons? If you're going to make such generalizations, you need to have airtight evidence through numbers. You can say that reason A is the number one reason for divorce, but do you include what percentage of women out of all the other reasons cite that as the number one reason? If it is 45% of women in a certain culture who divorce for that reason, you cannot use it to say that all women in general will do this, because that's not the majority of the female population. It's misinformation to say that women in general do this, because the person listening to this video thinks, or to listening to that video or remark, thinks that 85% of the women are going to pull this kind of stunt or do this kind of stuff. Also, shouldn't she look out for her own interests and her well-being? Is this study or statistic a survey of women across the globe, or is this source surveying divorced women only in the US? Because if this is a US specific statistic, that doesn't mean this applies to other Western countries. Culture and social influences play a huge role in the decision making of a divorce, and I think it's ignorant to think that this one survey accurately depicts women in general, when you're only looking at a select society or country of people, if that's what this survey or statistic is. Now that I'm done playing with your idea, I'm going to show you that MGTOW propaganda has misinformed you. Dissatisfaction is such a broad term that we need to be more specific to clearly understand the issue. Women do not divorce just because they are bored and think they need to move on. In fact, according to a study from the Daily Mail, a UK news organization, boredom is the 7th top reason why women divorce. And this study only applies to people in the UK, but the point is, this is a counter-argument, this is a counter-example that shows that your general, universal thing that most women are going to divorce because of boredom is not true. Now, actually, the most common reasons women divorce, according to this article, are different life goals, infidelity, and constant arguing. Women are not the bad guys all the time, and they actually do have some good reasons for divorcing. Again, this statistic can't speak for every culture, but I am trying to show you that the MGTOW perspective doesn't have the definitive answer that you think it does. I also want to double down on my position against the idea that women are more disloyal in marriage than men are, and that women are more likely to divorce because they are, because of this disloyalty. On the contrary, women are more likely to get help to save the marriage than men are. According to a Psychology Today article written by PhD psychotherapist Douglas Labiere, I hope I pronounced his name right, he upholds your claim that 70% of women initiate divorce. However, his reason for why women divorce more often than men is from his observations of heterosexual couples who come to therapy before they divorce. Now let me get to the point here. When dealing with a marriage conflict, women are more often to directly tell the therapist what's troubling them in the marriage, while the husband does not think there's anything wrong and that the state of the marriage is okay. You have to wonder if many of these guys are just clueless or have complacent and lazy attitudes. Anyways, this article and these findings found in this article support the conclusion of the American Psychological Association, which suggests that women divorce more often because they feel the quality of their relationship has dropped. Now, I'm not accusing that all men don't care about their relationships, but what I am pointing out is that women are more likely to get help to fix their relationship than men are. Not everything is what it seems. Maybe the high divorce rate is a cause of both complacency and laziness of some men and the high expectations of some women. I'm also not trying to say us guys are the ones who are disloyal in marriage, but I'm trying to point out that you are making a mistake here. After this, you assume that since women divorce more often and no-fault divorce is the most common divorce, that women use no-fault divorce. Again, you don't have enough evidence to make this kind of claim without proof. Assumptions are simply not good enough. What you're saying is similar to a guy claiming that because most people in America are white and murder is the most common crime, that most white Americans are murderers. This assumption, even if it is true, is still misleading because it doesn't address the reasons why women use no-fault divorce. While we may not like no-fault divorce, sometimes no-fault divorce is being used for a good reason. Many people choose to use no-fault divorce because it creates less drama in the marriage and you can get over it faster instead of having to go through the whole ordeal of trying to settle a he said, she said case. Anyways, I encourage you to look more into this, and hey, maybe you'll learn something new that you can share with me and other people in the MGTOW community. What I recommend for everyone, and the lesson that we learned here, is do your own research and don't be regurgitating stuff that you hear on a MGTOW's YouTube channel. Not everything they say is fact. Alright. After all this, you try to prove that men generally aren't hypergamous because 70% of marriages, men are financially dominant in the Western world, which leads women to take advantage of this. Again, where are you getting this information from? Not all of your claims are fake, but I just can't trust you, especially when some of your statistics are either proven to be false or questionable. Now, unless you have some credibility or what you're saying is common knowledge, and if you want to know what that is, my definition of common knowledge is something that everyone knows, like a statement, the sky is blue. That's an example of common knowledge. Then I would actually believe you, but if it's not that, it's up to you to prove some sort of credible source or evidence. Now, I already went over why I don't believe in hypergamy, so I'm not going to go argue that all over again. What I will say, though, is that your attitude towards women is pretty negative when you seem to only focus on the things women are doing wrong. To me, this shows the MGTOW theme of portraying men as the victims and women are the evil ones who are trying to oppress and take advantage of us. You know, the enemies you guys talks about makes women sound like, the way you describe women makes it sound like there's some sort of matriarchy trying to control people. Now, where have I heard someone say something similar like this before? Feminism. Since you say you're feminism. Since you say you're generalizing things, that leads me to assume that you are talking about women in general. Will take advantage of men's financial dominance and steal their money from them. Now, some women do this, that is true, because there are some people who will kind of pull this kind of thing because it comes from their selfish nature or they're in a desperate situation. And I'm not saying that stealing people's money is a good thing. Now, I'm sure that these women are not the only culprits, and I think there are some men who do mooch off women, such as borrowing money and not paying it back and being irresponsible. You see this kind of stuff go down all the time. For example, if you watch the show Judge Judy, and yes, the cases are real, it's a real life thing, it's not fake news or some fake show. There's men all the time taking advantage of women and basically mooching off them. So you can go to that show and you'll see evidence there. Anyways, going back to what we're talking about, I'm also going to ask you this question. Do you have evidence to show that women in general are taking advantage of men? That, most women are going to do this. Now, what I am wondering is, are you trying to say that people who like to steal money are women, or that because they're women, they're going to steal people's money or take advantage of man's money? Either way, anyone could take advantage of someone's money. And this isn't specific to women. It could be your friends or, who are broke and asked to borrow your money. Besides, women don't always care about money. You really need to take a second look at what you're saying here. What also contradicts this kind of claim you're making is how I know I'm jumping ahead here, but in your next point you talk about how a lot more women are getting more high-paying jobs. If a lot of women are getting more high-paying jobs, why do they need to take advantage of a man's money? I think you don't even know what women want. While it's true financial stability is important, society has progressed where women don't need a man for money anymore. And besides, women nowadays rather spend their time with a man who understands them rather than some guy who can give them toys that they will get bored with. And besides, our society has evolved, and women now are having careers and they're basically able to fend for themselves. They're independent. They're not little children who need a man's help. And also, another point to think about is, do many men not also use women for something? Many women use sex and also money, as I previously talked about.
I think a lot of people take MGTOW rhetoric and hyperbole a little too seriously, because we're not talking about taking women's jobs away. We're not saying that women shouldn't be allowed to go out into the workforce. Some people are.
This is probably the most confusing part of your video, Square, because everything is so generalized that it makes it hard for me to know what do you define as MGTOW hyperbole and rhetoric. From my perspective, MGTOW should be more focused on using facts from reliable sources to help pinpoint the true problems that society faces. We need more reliable facts, not fiction and hot air. Angry and resentful MGTOW rhetoric doesn't lead anywhere except towards hating humanity and being a depressed victim. Also, what do you mean by some people should have jobs? How do you define who deserves a job or not? That kind of contradicts your libertarian ideals, because why should other people decide who gets a job or not? Let the employer make that decision.
What I'm saying is that affirmative action is unfairly giving women that don't deserve those type of jobs, those high-paying jobs, more money than they deserve. I'm not talking about the people that get jobs on their own merit and have the qualifications. I'm talking specifically possibly government jobs, teaching jobs, and some corporate jobs when the corporations are being pressured by feminists to hire women. If you stop propping women up through government programs like affirmative action, then there will be less women with high-paying jobs.
I do agree with you that affirmative action is unnecessary, as minorities don't need any special treatment or privileges. While it may have been useful a long time ago where people were being discriminated against, I can't think of any rights that a race or gender does not have. I do believe affirmative action focuses more on minorities than putting women above men. If we follow the principles of affirmative action, a transgender Hispanic man is more likely to get a job than a white woman. Also, I want to point out that affirmative action does not give women more money. It only makes it easier for oppressed minorities to get a job. When you state women are getting propped up by the government, how many women are we talking about? Women aren't the only ones who are getting jobs without merit. Minority men are too. At the end of the day, affirmative action is bad all around, as it gives minorities an unfair advantage over hard-working Americans. While I do agree with you that it's bad that some women who don't deserve jobs are taking advantage of affirmative action, I think it's more the racial minorities who are guilty of this. I'm going to go off on a little tangent here, and I'm not saying you agree with this, but I don't believe the idea of other MGTOWs that affirmative action is the reason why many women are in high-paying jobs, unless I think MGTOW who hold this viewpoint don't have any facts or statistics to even support this claim. Now, instead, I think they overlook many other reasons as to why there are more women in careers. I think the reason why women are in more high-paying jobs now is because they are being given more encouragement and resources by their schools and society to pursue a career. I think it's okay to have some public programs to support and help women, get careers, as long as they don't give women entitlements to jobs that they didn't earn. I think we should be encouraging women to get into career fields, but we shouldn't be, discriminating and giving women or anyone unfair advantages. Back then, women did not have these same opportunities, and with more support women are getting in the schools, it makes sense why women are more high-paying jobs. Also, the increase in women in high-paying jobs is a reflection of society's change in attitude from the subservient housewife to a more independent and modern woman, not solely because of the government's help. Here, I'm going to go back to what you were saying. Now, here's the thing. Even if we were to eliminate affirmative action, there would still be a lot of women in high-paying jobs. Yes, a lot of women who don't deserve high-paying jobs. Here's the thing. There would probably be less women in high-paying jobs who don't deserve it if we got rid of affirmative action, but I think there would still be a lot of women anyways. The people who did get help from affirmative action are a small minority of America that doesn't really represent the whole situation anyways. Also, most of the high-paying jobs are private corporate jobs, which is something affirmative action doesn't really affect much, unless it's government jobs, of course. Also, affirmative action doesn't just get people into high-paying jobs, it also gets people into lower-paying jobs as well, such as teaching careers. Also, what do you consider a high-paying job anyways? I think that some minorities, including women, get their job from affirmative action, but I don't think that this is most women, and I also don't think that everyone who got help from affirmative action doesn't deserve that job. Through most probably don't. I do disagree that a lot of women are getting teaching jobs because of affirmative action. Where is the proof? And besides, to become a teacher there are a lot of qualifications. No one could just easily get the job without having some merit. Instead, that is more likely to be minorities, because affirmative action is designed to focus more on racial minorities instead of trying to put one gender over the other. I'm not saying it doesn't help women. More women are in teaching jobs than men because it has been a popular career choice that women throughout history have always been attracted to. Also, from a biological standpoint, women are happier and more adept at taking care of children, which could explain why they seem to do so well in the teaching professions. Anyways, I agree with 99% of what you say. Affirmative action is a cancer that needs to be removed. But again, you need to be more clear with the information you're presenting here, because these general claims can be easily misinterpreted. And so yeah, remember, I'm not trying to intentionally strawman you in this section, but you really need to clear everything up, sir. Now let's play the next clip I want to take a look at.
But I'm not talking about entitlements on the job beyond gynocentrism, which a lot of women, especially attractive women, do receive entitlements on the job due to gynocentrism, #MeToo. But what I'm talking about again is affirmative action, We're talking about entitlements to get the job, non-meritocratic ways of getting the job. And that's what we're saying.
First of all, what do you define as an entitlement, and what kind of entitlements do women have on the job that men don't? I can't think of any examples, so I'd like you to prove this to me. Also, it'd be illegal to discriminate people at the workplace based on gender. And if this was really happening, I'm sure someone could have easily sued someone right now for this. If discrimination is happening in the workplace based on gender, then I'm totally against that. However, with that being said, I do think it's okay for people to have privileges at certain companies based on individual performance and character, and I think you would agree with that too. If a lot of women have privileges in the workplace, that doesn't automatically mean that men are being discriminated against and there's some sort of gynocentric conspiracy going on. It could just be that a lot of people who have privileges are, in that company are coincidentally women. I think companies should be able to run their businesses however they want. As long as they aren't intentionally trying to discriminate people, who really cares? Next, how does the #MeToo movement have anything to do with job entitlements? #MeToo is a movement encouraging women to speak up against sexual harassment. And finally, how is gynocentrism related to all of this? Can you prove it exists on a wide scale? If you're going to prove that gynocentrism exists in the workplace, you better have a lot of statistics and a lot of evidence. Right now, it seems gynocentrism is more of a conspiracy theory than a reality. I will get more into my opinion on gynocentrism later and in another part of this Comment War series. Okay, ladies and gents, I'm cutting the video right here, so we can all take a break from this. Congratulations to those who made it through this video. I hope you learned something new today. But before I wrap this video up, here's my summary of what I think about the arguments we looked at in this video. On the surface, Square did make some better points than he did in some of his previous parts of his video, and I mostly agree with Square's stance on affirmative action. Regardless of our reasons, we both can agree that affirmative action has got to be wiped off the face of this earth, because affirmative action is giving people privileges when they don't need it or they don't deserve it. Now, with that being said, I think that more or less of Square's arguments seem to have little to no accurate scientific or statistical backing. Square seems to overlook all the other reasons why these things happen, which leads him, and probably many other MGTOWs, to jump to conclusions based off assumptions. Like doing a proof in math class, you need to show a lot of work to make sure you have the right answer. Failing to do so leads you to the wrong conclusion, causing your grade to drop. But in the real world, misinformation is more devastating than getting a bad grade. If there's one thing I want to emphasize, it's that Square really needs to clean up that section where he talks about jobs. There are so many things he is saying that makes it hard to connect where all the pieces of the argument are trying to go. So I'd like you, Square, to fix that whole thing up and kind of make it more concise and clear. Now, I know this episode was quite boring compared to all the other previous videos I made, but fear not, my fellow viewers, part 4 of Comment Wars is about to get even more spicy. Anyways, in the final installment of the Comment Wars series, which is part 4, I'll wrap this series up by responding to some more of Square's points about jobs, college, and etc. Part 4 will be the icing on the cake for this little micro series of ours. With that out of the way, once again, thank you for watching this video, and I will be back with my final response to Square's video next week. I don't care if that video takes 2 hours, I am going to finish all of my points in that video. Now, if you learned something new today, give this video a like and share it with your friends, or dislike this video if you want. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment telling me if you also found the affirmative action audio a little confusing. Until next time, my fellow comrades, fare thee well.